Today is March 16th, 2023, and this week there were 72 reported cases of COVID-19 in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, which is a 47% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is comfortable to not wear a mask.
Okay, great. I'm behind the camera. I'm David Whalen. I'm a communications major here at Queens, and I'm doing my Capstone project.
So I'm the interviewer. My name is Jackie Anderson. I'm a communications major here at Queens University, and this is my Capstone project also.
And my name is Taisuke. I'm an MBA student at Queens currently, and yeah.
So Taisuke, where's home for you right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Well, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm originally from Tokyo, Japan.
Awesome. So how long have you lived here in Charlotte?
It's been 5 years. Yeah, I also graduated from undergrad at Queens as well, so this is my 6th year in Charlotte.
So when did you come over here from Japan?
When I was 13 years old. So it's been, 11 years.
Awesome. So over the last 2 years in regards to COVID, what has your experience been like?
So the COVID hit, I guess, my junior year at Queens. Obviously that time, I was playing golf, and I was actually trying to play golf professionally. So unfortunately, the season ended, as you know, halfway from spring semester. So that was unfortunate. It happened. And also, since the COVID happened, everybody had to go home. Most of my friends had to go home to their, wherever they live. So yeah, it was tough because again, I was trying to hang out with them a lot more often in my junior year. We would have been 2020 through 2021, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. So it's definitely something that I had to adjust.
Yeah. So from the early days of COVID, what do you remember that being like? Like when we first got the news that COVID was happening and this big virus, what do you remember from that?
Definitely, I was confused for sure because that time I personally didn't really know anything about what COVID was, and all I knew was we have to go home. So I knew it was something serious, but I just didn't know how it was going to affect my personal life. So confusing is the word I would describe.
So walk me through when lockdown hit. What did your life look like during the peak lockdown?
So that time, I was sharing an apartment with my, my college roommate back then. So he had to go home to Florida. That's where he was from. So I was just trying to find an apartment because I couldn't go back to Japan because of I didn't know when I was able to come back if I go outside of the States. So I just tried to stay in America. So that back now I was just trying to find an apartment because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going to happen with school-wise. And obviously from a golf perspective, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Do I get to keep playing? Do I not get to playing? So that's something that I kind of just have to figure out, just kind of sitting at home. Because I remember grocery stores, all the thing was gone because everybody just tried to buy a lot of things, kind of stock them. And then whenever I went there was a Haristira across the street from my apartment, so I didn't want to drive anywhere. So I just go to Haristira trip, and I see there's nothing. So it was definitely something that I had to adjust throughout the couple months. But yeah, we'll just stay home, just try to avoid contact with people as much as possible back then. So.
Did you find that to be fairly tough to do when it first happened, or how long did it take you to kind of get used to the flow of things?
To be honest, even before COVID, I wasn't really the guy who'd go out much. So yes, obviously there are a couple concepts that I had to adjust, but majority of I guess the rhythm of my life were pretty similar. So there's really nothing major thing that I had to adjust besides don't get to see my friends, I would say. Yeah.
So you said you had a roommate back then. How did, when everything came out and everything was going on with COVID, how did living with a roommate, did it change? Did it stay the same, or what happened with that?
Well, so the things he wanted to go home to his parents. I technically had to find my own apartment because our lease was up. and he don't want to renew it throughout the summer. So I had to. That's when I kind of realized that like I probably should live my own, because at that time like we just didn't know how long this COVID was gonna last, and so like I just lived my. So that's why I decided to live myself. And yeah, so.
So living by yourself, when COVID hit, how did your relationships with your friends and your family, how are they affected? Because I know your mom was back in Japan, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
Definitely affected. Like for example, she missed my graduation because she just couldn't come. With all the restriction of international trips, so she was able to come to attend my graduation, which is fine. She's gonna come. She's gonna come to my MBA graduation, so that's fine. But I would say my friends again, like they all had to go home, so I wasn't able to see them at all. And then we didn't really like FaceTime either. I know there was a thing back then, like do like a Zoom hangouts or whatever, but I didn't do that. It's just more like texting, just catching up over the text. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So playing golf back then with your teammates, how your relationship with your teammates, how was that affected with COVID?
Well, again, like back then, like we had like half of guys were international, so I think pretty much besides me, everybody went home. Again, it just happened that like I didn't get to see them for a year because that's how long the NCAA kind of like restricted eligibility during the COVID season. But like like yourself, we play golf throughout the summer, so it's like some of them I was able to see because they live in Charlotte, but some of them I didn't get to see them for a year.
So with all that, coming back and living your life when everyone kind of came back, having to wear masks and all that, how did you feel about having to wear all the personal protective equipment like masks and gloves, and what are your thoughts on that?
It just like I just think my things are like I just control what I can control. So like if the school's like, hey, like just wear the mask, I don't really disagree. I agree with it. I just kind of do it. So there's not really any time where like I kind of feel like I was being forced or anything. I just kind of like went with it.
So going with the flow like that, how did that affect your normal like everyday routine, or did it change it at all?
During COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a peak COVID. I guess the only things again, like I didn't have to come out to the campus anymore because all the classes were held on Zoom or Ring Central. So I guess I was able to take that class kind of anywhere in the United States. So like I was also traveling a lot for the golf tournaments and stuff. So I guess since obviously COVID happened, I bring a lot of impact negatively, but it kind of like worked out in that way where like I was able to play more tournaments throughout the year because I didn't have to be on campus to take classes. So I was able to, in that way, it kind of changed. I was able to travel more for the golf tournaments, and I also decided to get a dog. I guess end of my junior year, so I had to. Another additional responsibility came on my plate.
So with that, you mentioned that you got a dog and that you're allowed to travel more. So what do you think on the positive side of things with the lockdown? What were some of the benefits that you noticed?
Personally?
Personally.
Again, like I just was able to travel a lot. I was able to take classes anywhere, as long as I have a laptop with me or even the phone. So like, let's say like I had a class from 9:50 to 10:30. Like I could have been on the golf course and maybe practice before that, and then kind of go home quickly, take the call, and then after done, I can just kind of go back to the golf course and practice again. So it kind of worked out great, personally.
So on the flip side of that, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, definitely racism. Where like a couple example. I went to Target, like peak lockdown. I went to the Target a couple times. There are a couple ladies who like once like they saw me walking close to them. Oh, I wasn't really walking towards them. I was walking to a product right that was next to them. But she reacted like very aggressively, even though technically I didn't call it. I personally didn't cause the COVID, but I guess she has her own beliefs, which is fine. I respect that. But there are a couple experiences where I was like, well, I guess people would think differently. But yeah. So.
Would you say when it comes to the racism and the whole side of that, how did you kind of take that, or was it more prevalent during the whole COVID era? You say it was way more than what it was.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, obviously, I personally never experienced before that, but like I knew they existed. Like I heard a couple of my friends went through a couple stuff, but I personally never been. But seeing the news of people crashing to Chinese restaurants just because they're Chinese, or like any Asian restaurants because it's Asian, or whatever, people break down and just destroy things. So definitely, I think COVID brought, I guess, more racism, towards, yeah, I would say that definitely brought more.
So obviously racism was a long-standing consequence of the pandemic. What are some other long-standing issues and consequences you've seen since the pandemic has kind of slowed down a little bit?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So like some consequences that came from COVID. I know you mentioned racism and an increase in that. What were some other consequences that you've kind of seen?
Maybe like inflation rate, and that's something that definitely caught. Like obviously now it's getting worse, but like since the COVID happened, all the suppliers, especially from Asia, they had to kind of limit of their outsource. So like I guess the inflation rate, which affects us like gas price, and it was well for gas maybe more like recently, but like grocery price was way higher because I remember like I bought the same thing like 2 years ago and now it costs like almost double. So maybe those little minor maybe adjustments I kind of notice where obviously it's affecting your daily life.
So during the pandemic, I mean, you mentioned you were a student. Were you working at all during the peak of things?
Oh, so actually I was during undergrad I was working. Well, I was interning at the Kohala Club in Charlotte, which was obviously they run differently through the COVID, but overall, like work-wise, it didn't really affect much. Obviously, we had to wear masks and then sometimes gloves, and then like we had to be careful with a couple members. But overall, since like golf is like outside sports, so like we it affected us, but like didn't really affect us if you know what I mean.
So I know you're working at Ally now. Have you noticed anything since COVID's kind of wound down that Ally has kind of done to help stop the spread of COVID, or any precautionary measures still to this day?
Oh, so I started working there last May, so I'm not really sure how they deal with it, the actual lockdown. But I heard so we had a couple meetings where like they kind of share with like how the process was back then. So like once our leadership team kind of decided that okay, this is it, we have to send people home. Apparently, like they're working from home for like at least like a year and a half. But like the time I started working, that's when everybody started coming back to the office. So obviously, the first few weeks, like there was not like they didn't really require for you to wear a mask or anything, but like they provided you the kind of wristband. Let's say if you don't feel comfortable physical touch, like like handshake or whatever, they provide you a wristband. So it depends on what the color that is. Let's say I think green was like okay, yellow was just be cautious, and then like the red is like no touch at all. Like an example like that. So I know Ally and we had to do COVID tests every week, and we had to put in this like app to make sure we don't have any COVID prior to come to the office, just to make sure avoid splitting the COVID within the office. But I didn't really notice anything like since I started working besides those points.
So personally, going through COVID, everyone had to kind of change in a certain way. Coming out of COVID, how do you think you changed as a person from when you went into the whole COVID lockdown?
Well, so I started to definitely adjust the way I think, the way I live, especially middle of the COVID too. So since like I spend a lot of time in my apartment, so like I started read more, maybe I started to like actually kind of plan out like my my life just to see what I want to do in the future, stuff like that. So I feel like coming out of like peak lockdown, I think I was kind of like I was able to create new habits, which kind of to me personally, I think it shaped me as a better person.
So talking about that, your life it's shaped in a better way. What's the biggest changes you've noticed in your life now than when you were living through COVID during lockdown?
I would say just a career switch. Like I said, I was just trying to play golf professionally, especially during the COVID. Well, I mean, I'm up to the point where the COVID kind of cooled down, but so I think like whole my priority has changed. Like I was just like I would say like the things that I will spend majority of time um, in a day are completely different than the thing that I would spend on like right now, like nowadays.
So talking about the hand map that we did, you had to talk about the three journeys in your life that you had to write on the palm of your hand. If you don't mind sharing, what were those journeys that you wrote down on
It's
there?
the one on the line, right?
The one on the lines, yeah.
Well, I put career switch, new habits, and traveling. And career switch is kind of where being a like full time athlete to kind of like work in the corporate world, which there's so many things like I had to adjust as a person, also the way you think and stuff like that. And then the thing that I do now for the bank, obviously I wasn't aware of anything at all, so I had to kind of like quickly learn how they things, how the market works. So it was definitely I would call it journey, because that's something like I had to kind of spend extra time first, 3-4 months to kind of understand how they do things, then what I need to do to contribute to the team, stuff like that. And new habits, like I just kind of mentioned, I started reading books, which helps a lot. Actually, this week I already read one, so I'm on the second book right now. But like it's just to kind of collect all the different perspectives through the books. I think it just helps a lot. And this is something like I should have realized a long time ago. But hey, let me just do whatever you gotta do. So thankfully I realized it now. So yeah, that's what new habits and traveling. Like I said, like, since COVID happened, Ring Central became a thing. So like I was able to take these classes, outside of the Charlotte. So I feel like I travel a lot, mostly for the golf tournaments. But yeah.
So where's your favorite place to travel that you've been to so far?
Not for golf, but I went to New York a couple times, which was great. I went to DC. DC was great, but maybe not really the city that I would go back for. I've been to let's see, I love Florida. I went to Florida a lot because that's where all the golf tournaments were. But I personally like the New York the best, I would say. It kind of reminds me of home, just Tokyo. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So being from Tokyo and going to New York, like, what are the biggest similarities that you see between the two? Is it, why do you like it so much?
Well, it just kind of like it's just like busy, because that's how Tokyo is as well, too. Yeah, just like all the like street, all the train, all the subways that they have kind of reminds me of home. Obviously, great food there. They have obviously, majority of options for the restaurants, which I love the most. They have a great Japanese food. I love, the companies. They have headquarters there for a reason, so I love that.
So with Charlotte, do you notice any similarities or differences with Tokyo and Charlotte?
I get some parts in Tokyo, some areas in Tokyo, yes, reminds me of Charlotte, especially the uptown. Not really here in this like neighborhood, but like uptown, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So during COVID, a lot of lessons you learned. What's probably the biggest thing you learned about yourself?
Again, this is something that like I just keep telling myself that okay, we all know that like you only can control what you can control. But like I guess throughout the COVID, I think that's something that I truly understand what it means. Like again, like COVID happened, and it's very unfortunate. But I personally cannot control to prevent COVID. Like all I can do is control how I live with it, and obviously change happens throughout your life, and it just naturally changes happen in the world, like positively or negatively. So you kind of just have to accept that, and it kind of sense that something's coming, and it kind of just adapt to the change instead of try to fight against it.
Well, that's all the questions I had.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, TK.
Thank you. Bye.